Hello, you're listening to Food Rebels, and I'm your host, AJ Sharp. As you know, this show is dedicated to the more rebellious side of the food world, where we celebrate people who have challenged the status quo. These guys are food founders, challenger brands, and people in food who are doing really exciting things. I'm the show host, AJ Sharp, broadcaster, food judge, business owner. Delighted to be joined again for the fourth time by MasterChef winner, Tempest Foods founder, TV presenter, demo chef, food judge, and all-round foodie legend, Dhruv Baker. Welcome back.
Thank you, AJ. I didn't recognise who you're talking about there. I should have said my name, but thank you. Yes, great to be back and can't wait to see what we're going to talk about. But the room smells incredible.
It does smell incredible, doesn't it? I've been listening. I wanted you to know that I've been listening over the last 4 weeks. Of every time you told me about you, I was like making little notes.
Oh, no.
My summary. Yeah, this show's going to be really exciting. We're talking about baking, I think. There's some really delicious looking baked goods in the studio today. Tasting some cakes from our experts on the show. So we have got Luke Underdown from Garage Coffee, who's recently launched a sourdough bakery. Welcome, Luke.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And Kate Ampomah from Eat and Mess, a professional baker. Welcome.
Hi there. Lovely to be here.
Lovely. So, Kate, can you start by telling me a little bit about Eat and Mess, when you started it?
Sure. Yeah. So Eat and Mess was founded just over 10 years ago, actually. It was kind of a result of me basically getting tired of working as a pastry chef for other people. So I decided to take everything I'd learnt from all over the place, all the different bakeries and events companies that I'd worked for, and decided to set up on my own. And that was when we were still living in London. And then about 7 years ago, we relocated to Deal on the Kent coast. And I was trying to keep it going in London and then commute up and down, but
Wow.
with a couple of kids and just life, it proved a bit difficult. So I took the decision to close everything down in London and relocate the business there as well. We basically had to start it again and rebuild and obviously create a new customer base, but so far it's going quite well.
Brilliant. Oh, it sounds great. I can't wait to try some of your stuff.
Yeah.
And Luke, you make coffee.
I know.
How does this work? Talk to me about this.
Did exactly the thing you'd expect. Brought some croissants along. But yeah, so Garage Coffee, specialty coffee roasters. We've been going since 2015. The business was about sourcing, or still is about sourcing really great coffee from really good places and paying a good amount of money for it. And we've developed our offering through our shops. We've got 4 shops across Kent. And more recently, we opened a sourdough bakery, which is in Herne Bay. So I've brought along some bits from our new bakery that we're also rolling out to all of our shops to kind of, and everyone to enjoy it. So
It sounds amazing. I think it might be the largest croissant I've ever seen in my life,
they're ridiculous,
actually.
aren't they? They are ridiculous. But
I love
great.
that. How do you do that? How do you make it so big? I mean, presumably more ingredients, but...
Yeah, exactly. And all the science behind it. I mean, I'm not a baker by trade, so you probably know as well. But it's everything in the proving, the preparation, the time and temperature and all these kind of things, which some very kind of clever baking people do and create these incredible treats.
AJ, don't question it. Just say, when people say how many croissants did you eat, just say 1. Just don't question it. The fact that it's the size of 5 or 6 inverted commas normal croissants, so I'd take it as a win, I'd say.
Yeah, you're right. And you're a professional chef, or have been at points in your life.
I have been. The irony being my surname is Baker, but actually I'm terrible at baking. And that's, the irony isn't lost on me, because it's such a different mindset. It's so precise. It's so, you have to really follow it to the letter. Whereas with sort of cooking, you can fix it and you can bring it back and you can freestyle a little bit more. But I think there's this. It's a very different mind space. Sorry, and you see it with pastry chefs. It's a very different. They're very different beasts to the kitchen chefs. There's very little of that nonsensical shouting and flailing around, and it's always very precise, very exact, because it's as much science as art. And I'm immensely envious, but also in awe of people who can bake, because it's such a different mindset that I have. I'm much more the flailing, chaotic one. So when I am in the presence of people who do this, I am nothing but immensely respectful.
You're flailing chaotic, but then it tastes incredible. I'm flailing chaotic and it tastes dreadful, mostly fails. How about you, Kate? Are you the precision scientist of pulling together these ingredients?
Would you know what, actually? I am not a scientist, naturally. I am very much more the creative side of things. As in, I did a degree before I retrained as a pastry chef, and that was English. And that is more my bag.
Me too. It's the I don't know what to do, but I like reading degree.
So I went into publishing when I left uni, because I was told that's what people do. So off I went, and then I retrained after a few years. But I am a Virgo, so I think I've got the kind of, well, I know I have organisation and attention to detail, much to the annoyance of people that work for me, to make sure it has to be exactly right. I probably am more of the creative bent, to be honest.
Oh, fantastic. So where did you train?
In San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I moved over there, and I enrolled at the Baking Institute there. So I trained there, and then alongside that I did some internships, and I stayed on there for a bit longer, just bobbing about, basically trying to get as much experience as possible. And then eventually returned back to London.
Cool.
The rest is history.
Why San Francisco?
Once I'd had it in my head that I was going to, give this baking lark a go, I decided I might as well go somewhere where there's excellence. And at the time, I wanted to train in sourdough and bread. And I looked at Paris, but I don't speak French very well. And San Fran's an amazing place to go. So I just thought, yeah, let's do it.
What an adventure.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So how long were you there for in total?
It was about 10 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a far worse place than San Francisco was 10 months, right? I mean, what a city.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of hills. Very early in the morning to do a shift at the bakery. But yeah, it was really good experience.
And what have you brought in here for us to taste?
I have brought in some of our frangipane tarts, actually. So those ones are orange and cardamom with plum. So we try and always be as seasonal as possible in the flavours that we use in the bakery, whether that's in the cakes or the tarts and things like that. So that's what you're tasting right now.
Oh, wow. Smell of
That is
almonds.
incredible.
Gorgeous. I love the way you've got the sliced, was it plum on top?
Yeah. And they're just so beautiful. I just love the colour of plums.
Yeah, they're magic, aren't they?
I'm always a fan. It's figs and plums at the moment that I'm really pushing on the frangipane tarts. If anyone's saying, what do you suggest? And I'll throw cardamom at anything.
Yeah, cardamom is such a gorgeous spice to cook with and to use in baking. And I love it. It sits so beautifully with vanilla and kind of. I love frangipane. I think I don't have a sweet tooth until it comes to this kind of thing. And then you've got this seam, this like razor sharp seam of acidity from that plum, which I think is and then you've the textural variance from the flaked almonds on the top, and the pastry itself has got this gorgeous texture.
Oh,
so it's
brilliant!
So much going on.
It's sweet, but there's more to it. There's like a savouriness in there, which I'm really enjoying. And I think the pastry outer is absolutely perfect.
Oh, good.
It's got crunch, and it's not. Yeah, it's absolutely.
Perversely, I don't have a sweet tooth at all. Really, yeah. So that was why actually I started originally with being really interested in bread and morning goods. So I've ended up moving into the sweet sector, but that's partly because I just love the finished look, and I'm so interested in flavours generally. So that's why I've ended up doing this, I think. Really.
So what other things do you make in your range?
So predominantly we supply to trade. So this is a prime example of the kind of things that we supply to cafes and restaurants and things. But then the other side of the business is the wedding cakes and celebration cakes and corporate cakes. So and that's obviously very visual. We've got a core selection of flavours that people can order on the website, and then we're always throwing a few seasonal things in there as well that for people that want to be slightly more adventurous. And the bestseller is still always going to be a vanilla and strawberry, but it's nice to be able to offer some other stuff as well. So the celebration cakes are a lot more visual, and that's where we get to have fun with ruffles and flowers, and foliage. And
so if we check you out on Instagram at Eat and Mess.
Yes.
All one word.
Mess, all one word.
You can see some pictures of some really incredible cakes.
Yeah, there's lots of frilly confections over there.
Do you see a swing towards more seasonal stuff? Because I know, as an island, we used to be so used to eating because you've got it all year round in the supermarket, right? And you wouldn't question a strawberry in January versus one in August.
Yeah.
Do you find there is a swing towards more seasonality as people kind of really get to grips with it? Because I think people see seasonality as a bit of an abstract term. It doesn't really relate to them. They're like, it's what posh restaurants do. But actually, it's not. I think it's something that's spilling over more, right?
Definitely. And I don't know if you guys have found this as well, anybody that's interested in food, but there's just a lot more conversation going on around seasonality now and locality as well. That's the other key thing. I think people, we've always had farm shops available. I think Kent's fantastic for its produce, actually.
Unbelievable.
Since we've been down here, it's just abundant. And I'm actually from Yorkshire. I'm a farmer's daughter from Yorkshire.
Also abundant, amazing
So
produce.
I've always been really kind of, this is important for me personally. And then we got down here and I was like, this is great, just the selection. But I do think there's definitely more of an awareness around it and an interest. So, yeah, I would agree with you with that.
And I think people are now asking why, because it used to be, okay, fine, I'll eat seasonally, all right. But actually people are going, well, why? It's not just because, right? And people are realising that from a quality perspective, it's in abundance, and therefore at its peak and at a price point it makes sense economically with basic supply and demand and air miles and carbon footprint. And I think we are beginning to question the entirety of that supply model, which is, let's be honest, it's intrinsically flawed, if not utterly broken.
Yeah, totally.
And whether it's you seeing people ordering a wedding cake which is more seasonal, I think is a sign of a bigger context, which is great to see, I think.
Totally. And I think on a really kind of chefy level, it's like I was saying just before about the plums that are in season, it's an understanding that when things are in season, they're going to taste better. We go to the supermarket and we might get our tomatoes, but they just taste like water if they're not in season.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the ingredients that we use in the bakery. If you have a focus on that, generally speaking, and if, a bonus, you've picked it up from somewhere locally, like a farm shop, it's going to taste mega.
Yeah. It's exactly the same thing we have in coffee as well, because coffee is a seasonal product. And from the very beginning when we got into roasting, it was about sourcing good seasonal coffee when it's good from the country that's growing it. And often people don't think of coffee as a seasonal product because, in the UK particularly, coffee knowledge is pretty poor, and most people want it to taste like burnt or chocolate or something dark. So we are buying seasonal coffees that actually taste of things, and we have really crazy flavour notes of like strawberry jam or Parma violets or, really interesting stuff, because we're buying it at a really good time for when it's being produced, because it does grow all year round, but it grows in different places.
But then you're kind of showcasing terroir and nuance of varietal. And I think we were talking earlier about spices, where there is this view of them as this commoditized view. But it's the same as coffee. People think tea is tea and coffee is coffee, and it's just absolute nonsense. There is such a variety, and I think we are. But I think we would settle for that, generic sort of things like Chinese food. That's a fairly generic statement. Would you refer to
many
European
countries
food
and dialects? Yeah, exactly.
This is a European chicken. You go, well, is it Finnish or is it Portuguese? But I think it's beginning to creep into things like beers and coffee and as you're saying, in pastry. So I think it's a great opportunity for creative, disruptors in this space who are taking that advantage, because it's hard to turn the huge mainstream producers, but actually small new producers who really want to deliver something amazing and special. I guess they're the people you weed out and get them here on the show.
And that's what we're watching. We met Craig Sams a few weeks ago, who founded Green and Blacks, and he's talking about, for the first time ever, bringing in chocolate that comes from a particular place that has a particular kind of percentage of cocoa. It was so new for its time, and now we're seeing it across the board with coffee, with chocolate. We all now have I like 65% chocolate, which is, no one ever said that. Who ever said that in the 1980s? Literally no one.
It's just dairy milk.
Yeah, exactly. That was all that was available, right?
Yeah.
And now we're seeing all these different nuances coming in. I mean, during lockdown, when the sourdough revolution swept the nation, and people are sort of comparing the quality of their sourdoughs. I mean, we're ready. We're like the British population. People are ready for this, aren't they?
Yeah.
They want more information. They're thirsty for more information, for what's better and what's worse.
Yeah, and I think industries like wine and beer and coffee are bringing that discussion to the table as well, because people want things that taste of things as well. It's not just a product that tastes of something. Cake isn't just sweet. Beer isn't just kind of that bitter flavour. There's different things, and then lots of industries are exploring that, which is very exciting for consumers.
That's really cool. Talking of tasting things, are we allowed to taste the giant croissant?
Yeah. So we've got a plain croissant, a pain au chocolat, and some of our sourdough there as well.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about how they're made or who made them or?
Yeah, so this is from our
do you
our
start
baking team in Herne Bay. So we've laminated doughs about 48 hours to get to this stage. Really tasty croissants.
Wow, sorry, forgot I was on radio then.
Sorry, I just sort of zoned out.
For eating.
Yeah.
It's the texture, right? Because there's nothing more disappointing when you get a croissant and it sort of shatters on impact. You bite into it and the thing just explodes and it's just this dry, dusty affair. Whereas there's texture and there's a really lovely, savoury, almost saltiness running through it. And it's just... I'm glad I don't live in Kent because given the proximity to croissants of that size, I'd be in all sorts of trouble. But they are sensational.
And so often when you cut open a croissant, it's just kind of like hollow inside. You'll know that, okay? And when you cut these open, you've got those lovely kind of laminated layers, and you can see that clear pastry butter, all the goodness inside a croissant, which is absolutely delicious.
And I can taste cinnamon or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a little dusting.
Yeah. So they're absolutely brilliant, and that's one of the things. The reason we opened a sourdough bakery is because we wanted a product that went really well with our coffee, and we wanted things that are going to hit the same levels we tried to do with coffee. And so often in the past we've been just buying croissants from frozen, baking them from frozen in our shops, and they hit a mark and people take them, but they were never really good enough for what we wanted to do. And it's been really good fun, and it's a great compliment to what we offer.
And you're making bread as well.
Yeah. So we've also got our house sourdough there, which is again super delicious.
Beautiful sour notes on the nose.
Yeah.
I love sourdough. I just love it. It's the ultimate. I've just come in from work or a run or something.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
The ultimate, yeah.
Good bread with butter is... I don't think anything beats it. I think that's top of the pile. That's number one. I am genuinely blown away at the quality of everything we've just tasted. Just astounding. And I don't really know what to say about it other than it's I love from concept to execution, everything makes sense. There's a story to it, there's a reason to it, there's a rationale to it, there's a genuine passion behind it, and it's articulated perfectly in a beautifully executed product. And I think there's a real joy as a consumer to experience that, because it's evident that you just need to look at it and know that that's a huge amount of skill and love and attention has gone into that.
Yeah.
And I love that we're getting this on a local, regional level, all the way around the country. I mean, you guys both happen to be from Kent, don't you? You said you're Deal. Where are you based, Luke?
Just outside of Canterbury. Yeah.
Just outside Canterbury. I mean, isn't this so cool?
Yeah, fantastic. And we're so lucky to be in this area where there's just so many great producers that we can feed into, each of our businesses, and also work with them. And as coffee roasters, we also supply into some great hospitality businesses, and that's what I love, going into really great food businesses and getting them to use better coffee and drink coffee in a way that matches what else they do. So yeah, super exciting.
Is there an uptake, would you say, from people, not just people coming in to buy coffee, but from people buying it to make their own coffees from it, sort of other retailers?
Yeah.
Do you say there's a definite movement?
Definitely. I mean, during COVID, there was a massive spike in people buying coffee online and coffee through the letterbox, and which was great for us because that kind of was a revenue stream when we didn't have our shops open and all our wholesale customers were closed. So yeah, and at that time, people were buying coffee machines and all the equipment. So there's been a real boom in people drinking coffee at home. And that's, something we definitely encourage, because you can make really good coffee at home and you don't need to spend, that much on doing it, which is amazing because it builds that user experience and it gets people talking and engaging with coffee. And once they start drinking nice coffee, they don't go back.
I was just going to say, this is the same whether it's once you've turned left on a plane, you really don't have to turn right again. But you've had that experience.
Yeah,
I've heard that it's good to go left. So, but it's one of those things where you elevate that bar. People think, I don't really like coffee. No, you don't like the coffee you've tried to this point, and then it's a different conversation. And I think. It's getting it in front of people and raising that or elevating that bar, whether it's of knowledge or making people demand better. But that happens over time. But it's great to see it's sort of gathering momentum across the board. Here we've looked at 4 different products. We've talked about wedding cakes and coffee, and I think it's heartening. There's hope yet.
Yeah, I think so too. I really want to ask about the ingredients for both of your products. I mean, flour is a huge deal, isn't it, in both of the things that you're making? I mean, I've got some friends down at Nonnington Farm who are making the most incredible flour from like heritage wheat varieties and things. How important is the flour choice in what you're making? I'm going to pose it to Kate first.
For me, it's almost the most important thing, to be honest. I think, as we were referring to earlier, historically, especially in England, I think cakes, baking, bakery goods, in fact, most food, was generally pretty stodgy, solid. If you were going to buy a cake, it just tasted of sweet, of sugar, and that was the main ingredient. For us personally, for me, it was always, let's look at the flour that we're using. We use organic flour. We use a lot of heritage grains. We've tried using a few kind of local miller suppliers. It makes such a difference for the texture. For a lot of people who have dietary requirements as well, people that said, I can't eat wheat, I'm gluten intolerant, actually, they've tried using, so we use white spelt flour. Organic white spelt flour is the base flour that we use across all of our cakes. People can eat that, they can digest it. It's just a lot easier on their stomachs, and it's got a beautiful texture and a really lovely flavour. And then we add in lots of other different kind of flours as well to give extra notes depending on what flavour.
Oh, wow! So you're actually blending flour. You're not just going self-raising, bish bash bosh done.
Don't use self-raising.
No,
no self-raising comes into the bakery. But it's a really important thing, and I think again people are having conversations about it now. There's lots of kind of small-scale people producing flours as well as some of the big guns as well, and it's just a lot more accessible for everybody. All the people so we get our flour from Ship to Mill, but I know that you can also buy it on their website for home baking. And again, over lockdown, I think a lot of people, they were making their own sourdough, they were doing their own banana breads, and they were using those suppliers rather than just going into Tesco where they couldn't get flour anyway, actually. But, on the flip side of that, and I'm sure you've found this in the last couple of years, ingredient costs have just rocketed. Flour has gone up, even though we get it from England. Everything's gone up, a lot.
Yeah, it's been very challenging.
Yeah. So, you try not to pass it on too much to the consumer. But sadly, I think most people have found that they've had to.
You've got to cover costs, haven't you?
You just have to, sadly. But equally, I'm not willing to compromise either and use cheaper ingredients because that affects the end result.
I think people appreciate that, though. I think people understand that if you're going to buy a really good cake or sourdough bread, it's going to cost more than a supermarket.
And I think people understand that more. A bit like what you were saying about with the croissant. I think there's a conversation that's going on, and people have a choice. And absolutely, go to the supermarket and buy your birthday cake from there. That's great. That it fulfills the job. You can blow out your candles on it, or you can come to somewhere more artisan and know that you're going to be paying a bit more, but there's a story behind that and there's a reason behind that. And it's the same with, frozen croissant. I'll go into a coffee shop and you can normally tell if it's been kind of, defrosted and then just warmed up, or like the stuff in front of us, it's incredible that it's been made freshly, kind of probably on small batches. That's your choice.
And actually, as a consumer, the difference in price between something like the croissant, something you're selling, versus something that you'd get in a more conventional manner, batch bake, isn't actually that different. It's the same with coffee. When you compare our coffee prices in our shop to the high street kind of coffee shops, it's not actually that much different. You might get bigger drinks and they might just have more milk in them, but actually you're not really getting a much more of a product and you're paying about the same price for it.
Yeah.
But also, a 2-litre vat full of milk kind of isn't really coffee,
exactly.
is it? So it's that's not really the same thing.
Exactly. So, but the difference it makes is huge because you're buying really good products, you're supporting great businesses, and you're making, for us, not just the impact in this country, but the impact it has for our farmers and people growing coffee, miles away. that's massive because that's their livelihoods and that's really important to support them. So it's using the best things across the board, and it does speak volumes in the product as well.
Not only that, but, to your point just now, something that's been freshly baked that morning that doesn't have loads of preservatives, that hasn't got loads of stabilising agents and goodness knows what else that's been fluffing out a product to keep it looking nice for 5 days on a supermarket shelf, makes you feel dreadful. And you may not be gluten intolerant. You may actually just be reacting to some of the different agents that are put into supermarket breads, and not just supermarkets, but kind of mass-produced breads, which really aren't really meant for the human digestive system. And learning that, through making your own sourdough and going, gosh, I can eat loads of this and I'm fine. I mean, I'm fat, but I'm fine.
It's a really short ingredients list.
Yeah, exactly. Really is. And I have to give Kate a big up here because you have walked into the studio today with an 8-week-old baby on your shoulder. And I just want to give you a big up for that because I love it. I love seeing mums at work doing their thing, nailing it. Just casually rocking up on the radio, got a baby, it's all cool.
Yeah, she's out there somewhere. I haven't heard her crying, so it's all good.
There was at least 3 people from the team all cooing over her, I think.
I just realised I should probably qualify that. I haven't just left her out there. There are people with her.
No, the production team are...
She's very
well loved, no problem.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really cool, and it alludes to the spice conversation we were having last week with... Jawa here about, female cooperatives and, taking their kids to work and just getting on with it. And this would solve the childcare crisis in the UK if we could just all bring our kids. Yeah. I mean, not all the time. Mine are really annoying, but particularly when they're babies, I think, it needs to be normalised. We need to be doing this so much more.
And I think everyone needs to... people need to be more tolerant of the idea in the workspace and not go, well, you can't have a baby here. And then people kind of go, because it's always been the way that way.
It's always been the way. We did a job interview the other day with a lady who brought a baby along. She was on her mat leave. Why wouldn't she bring her baby? So the baby got passed around the table as we all just carried on the interview. There was no problem.
Perfect.
Are you about to become a dad, were you saying?
I am, yeah, 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Oh, that's super exciting.
It is very exciting and
equally terrifying.
Exactly, yeah. Well, in both parts.
All I can say is that to do with, in the world of bakery, people are used to getting up really early, so you've been kind of trained.
And plenty of coffee to keep me going.
There you go. You're
an entrepreneur.
You are set.
Yeah, you've got the best credentials for this. You've got this.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I can't believe it. We're out of time again. How does it happen? This has been absolutely brilliant. You've been listening to Food Rebels. Thank you so much to our fabulous guests, Luke Underdown from Garage Coffee and Kate Ampomah from Eat and Mess. And a really big thank you to my fellow presenter, Dhruv Baker, who has joined us for 4 episodes. I really hope you've enjoyed coming on Food Rebels. It's been awesome having your knowledge and super clear passion for food.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, AJ. Thank you for having me.
No, it's been phenomenal. Thank you. Food Rebels is available on radio stations around the UK and further afield. You can get replays through the podcasting apps such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Audible. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you taste the rebellion. Have a great week. Right, what are you going to eat now?
I think probably all of it.